Hello, and welcome back to My Life is Chaos. This story is the story about how my boyfriend cheating on me turned into a driving lesson. Um, this story takes place when I'm like 19 years old. Um, I'm not proud of my actions in this story. I don't think that I was necessarily in the right for a lot of things that I said, and I'll mention that when it's appropriate. And um, I also need to say before it starts that this is a story that involves infidelity, and it's a story that has a little bit of um, that element to it. So if that's not something you're comfortable with, it's not. I'm not going to talk about like actual acts, but there will be some mention of things that are relative to physically expressing your physical desire for someone, if that makes sense. Anyway, so this story takes place when I was 19, living in that apartment that had the roommate I got into a fight with. This is before that happened. Um, I'm not entirely proud of my actions here. I think I already said that. I had to start recording this again because I said the name of my ex, and I don't want to say anyone's names. So I can't remember what I've said here and what I've said there. Um, anyway, so this is the story of how my boyfriend told me he was cheating on me, and I decided to go for a drive. Um, at this point in my life, I hadn't really driven yet. I tried to learn how to drive with my stepfather, but he was literally always drunk. And one time he caused a wreck while I was driving, and another time he screamed at me when I was like trying to go around a curve. And those were like the driving lessons. That's it. That's all of the driving lessons I had had up until that point. I had my permit, but I didn't have my driver's license. And the laws for the permits at the time were that if I was to be, I was over 18, and so I could technically drive by myself with my permit if I was going to work or school. Um, in any other instance, I had to have a licensed driver age 21 and older with me. And we just so happened to have a roommate at the time who was over 21. And he was a really sweet guy. He kind of just, he spent the majority of his time laying on the floor and playing video games. And anything else that he did was just to like make people laugh or make sure everyone was comfortable. He was a really good dude. I enjoyed my friendship with this guy a lot. And he was there and my boyfriend was there. I don't remember who exactly else was there, but I know that I had a car that my parents had bought for like $500 from a newspaper that my boyfriend, who was licensed, was using to get me to and from work at the time. And so he brings me home from work and he's kind of quiet and withdrawn. And I ask him what's wrong. And he's like, I cheated on you with this girl that he had introduced me to as like an old friend of his. But the thing is like he said that he went to high school with her and I went to high school with him briefly. And then he also went to school with some of my friends because the high school we briefly attended together was one that I had gone to for all of my freshman year. And then he transferred in about a month or two before I transferred out and made friends with all of my friends. And so, not that I was like having people check up on him, but like we were friends. And so, like, my friends that I kept in contact with from that school would tell me, hey, I saw blah, blah, and he was doing this, that, or the other thing. And not once did anyone mention this girl or her name or anything like that. But he introduced me to her as someone he went to school with, and me to her as his partner. And I come home from work one day, and he was quiet the whole way home driving, and it was really weird. And so I finally asked him what's wrong at the apartment, And he's like, "I've been cheating on you with that girl that I told you I was friends with." And I'm like, "She's like a baby. Like, she I was like 19, she had to have been around 16 or 17, which to me was gross. Like, even then I was like, no, why are you cheating, A, but with a teenager, like, s sub part 1A. Like like, preceding the A, why are you with a teenager? This is just gross. Why? This no. And so I didn't believe him, and I was friends with his little brother. I actually had met his little brother first. The reason I was friends with this guy is because I had a crush on his little brother. He was like a year younger. Um, they were like just over a year apart. And I met the younger brother and had this huge crush on him, and the older brother had a crush on me. And yeah, it was high school, so we ended up dating, whatever. And then that went into my first like adult relationship. I dated this guy for like 6 years, worst 6 years of my life. Um, and I should have like walked away at this point, but I was again 19 and not making the best decisions. So he tells me he cheated with this girl who I'm like, she's a child. And so I call and I ask his younger brother, I'm like, hey, did you know about your brother and what's her name? And he at first is like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, he already told me. Like, I'm trying to confirm with you because I don't believe him. And he was like, get him to say that. And then I can answer whatever questions you have. And so, like, I got the boyfriend on the phone and he says, yeah, they know. And so the little brother is like, okay, yeah, so him and her have been having secret dates over here at my mom's house for the last like 2 or 3 months, something like that. And I'm just like, and I kind of freak out, and I'm not very happy with how I responded because this girl, she didn't know me. Um, she obviously was being manipulated by an older guy. She was not the one in the wrong here, but I still felt betrayed by her and I felt in competition with her. And so I immediately responded with um, saying all types of bad things about her as a person and that I expected better from her. And she knew I was with him and all of that stuff, but also like comparing me to her physically. Like, I'm cuter than she is, and if you're going to cheat on me with somebody, the least you could have done is do it with somebody who was cuter than me. Like, this is insulting. And so to prove a point that didn't need to be proven to myself, I asked the younger brother, hey, who would you rather sleep with? The girl your brother cheated on me with, or me? And he was like, well, you, of course, obviously, every time you. And I was like, okay, put your friend on the phone, because it was like him and a friend that were there, and we all kind of hung out together. And so he puts the friend on the phone, and I'm like, hey, friend, who would you rather sleep with, me or the guy that boyfriend cheated on me with? And he was like, of course it's you. And I was like, okay, fine. Well, I'm going to give one of you the opportunity to prove that to me, because here I come. Do you guys have any party favors? And so they said yes, and they said that I was welcome to come over. And I look at our roommate, who is 21 and sitting on the floor playing video games, and I'm like, hey, roommate, don't you want to go for a drive right now? I'm really angry and I need to get the heck away from here. And this guy just told me he cheated on me with someone who I see as beneath me. So wrong. Wrong. Wrong, chaos. Don't do that. And he was like, yeah, let's go. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm fine with that. And so I was like, well, you could bring like your system with you. He had a GameCube. And so he like packed that up, and we got into the car and I drove towards where the my boyfriend at the time's mother was living. And they didn't answer the door when I got there. Like, I'm sure that he called while I was on my way and was like, "They are really leaving. They're really gone. Please don't answer the door. Don't ruin my relationship." Whatever it was that he had to say to his brother to get him to act like they had fallen asleep in the 15 to 20 minutes it took me to get there, they didn't answer the door and all the lights of the house were off. So we turned around and we drove back. And that was like the first long distance driving I ever did. Um, After getting my permit, and I had to be so angry that I wanted to cause physical harm to people, and had to leave to avoid that in order for me to get over the anxiety I had, from driving, because I had been in a lot of car accidents, not because I was driving, but because other people were driving unsafe with me in the car. And maybe one day I'll talk about one of those car accidents because it like made it into the newspaper. But this isn't about that. This is about how I got over that driving anxiety with a little bit of good old fashioned rage. I hope you enjoyed my story. I hope you found something that you could relate to in there. Thank you once again for tuning in to My Ridiculous Life. Have a nice day.